Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Everquest Old School. And tonight I am playing my Barbarian Shaman, who is level 5. We almost lost that level on the last episode, if you guys remember. We went over to fight some gnolls a little further in, and we didn't quite make it. We died because they're just a little bit too strong for us at the moment. We were already halfway low on our life, anyways. We're at 50%, and we went ahead and took on a medium because again, I haven't gotten back into the habit of conning every creature that I fight, and you definitely need to get into that habit. You definitely want to make sure that you do that, because if you don't, you're going to run into issues like I've been running into with this low-level character. The creature may say a polar bear cub. It may actually be a polar bear cub, but they have a level range in which you can get anywhere from, say, a level 1 to a level 5 in a polar bear cub. So if you're, level 2 and you're attacking that creature, and you get a level 5 and you're just not aware of it, it's gonna hurt quite a bit. Unless you're a little twinked out or you're the right class, you're probably not gonna be able to do too well with that. So what we're going to do is, we're going to fight some creatures along the way, but we're going to run down to No Camp 1, and I'm going to show you how to get there first of all, and I've done that in other episodes, show you around the zone a little bit more, but I'm going to show you how to get back to the No Camp 1, and we're going to sit there and kill the camp off, and just earn some experience that way, because it's a nice, safe little place to kill, and at the moment, we're just not capable of really taking on too much stuff. I mean, we have a lot of buffs that we can cast on ourselves, which is a great advantage that most classes will not get. But because our equipment is so, I won't say sucky, but it's not good either. We don't have, first of all, a lot of our slots filled up, which is not uncommon at this level. And at this level, you're going to find it pretty difficult to get equipment because as a shaman, first of all, you're going to be saving up most of your money for the new level spells that you want to get. And we're actually going to get attacked by that white wolf, I'm sure, as well. But we should be able to handle it fine. But yeah, most classes that get spells will save up all the money that they earn for those spells. Now, there are certain zones in which I would say would be better. Oh, there we go. Right there, I got both of them at the same time. I'm just glad they waited a few seconds. There are certain zones that make it easier for lower level people. What is that guy? Come on, let me see what he is. Oh, Vengeful Souls. I gotta back up a little bit. That guy will wipe the floor of him. I think he's level 30 something. Either way, he kills you in like one shot. He just one-shots you and you're dead. You gotta keep an eye out for that guy. And he looks exactly like a decaying skeleton, except they're totally not. And that's just another one of those reasons you gotta get used to conning. Otherwise, you'll see that guy come and you'll be like, oh, he's an easy target. Bone chips. Bone chips sell for a decent amount of money. I'll take that guy on. And, yeah, it doesn't work for you. Where's he going? There he is. He's paving back. We're fine now. But yeah, there's certain zones like, if you start anywhere close to East Commons as a newbie, then you're going to have that ability to sell stuff and auction it at a higher price than you would otherwise be able to. Like right now, I have, like, I think 2 stacks of bone chips, which are worth about 10 platinum a stack. But I also get a lot of pelts over here in this region that I really just can't do anything with because nobody's really willing to buy it over here. There's nobody over here auctioning, and the people who are here are pretty low level, and so I just don't have that resource to be able to make that cash very quickly. And because of that, I have a hard time affording my next level spells. Even if I had extra money, I wouldn't really be able to buy any armor, because the only armor you could buy is from a vendor, and vendors really don't sell good armor. And the armor that they do sell, which might happen to actually be pretty good, is usually really expensive, and you could get from a player a whole lot cheaper. And so, again, unless you're close to a zone where people are auctioning, you're going to have a difficult time, finding the weapons and the equipment and stuff that you really want at a low level. But don't be too dismayed about that, because you can, level up pretty efficiently without ever having to buy a piece of armor. As you level up in this game, if you're in the right places, in the right groups, you can make a pretty decent amount of of not money, but armor from those creatures. Like, the creatures I'm killing over here right now, if I kill decaying skeletons, they all have a chance of dropping cloth armor. I can wear cloth armor, and although it's not the greatest armor in the world, oh, Vengeful Composer, I gotta watch out for that guy. Any of the ones that are vengeful, definitely watch out for. Vengeful Lyricist, Composer, those guys are pretty nasty. Let's see if there's another one out here, if that's a decaying skeleton. Oh, that's a decaying skeleton, and he's green to me. But we are finally at our camp. There it is right there. And it spawns fast enough that for the level that I'm at, I can usually go through these creatures and kill maybe a few spiders or, a few bears, and then the camp is spawning again. Now, if you come over here a little bit earlier than what I did, you can have a little bit of downtime because you have to wait for your power to come back, and so therefore you don't really ever have to wait for the repop. You're just waiting for yourself to kind of get ready for the next fight, which is pretty cool to always have a creature to pull from or creature to pull and kill, because there will be times at later levels where that guy's gonna attack me regardless, but I don't think he's gonna be too big of a trouble. Decaying skeletons, at some point in the game, you're able to just like one-shot them, and it's a great feeling because when you first started out the game, they were such a nuisance. Like, these guys, they're so aggro to everybody that when you start off and you're unaware of it, because a lot of the time, like spiders, they're not aggro. They won't, they're not ready to attack basically, and they won't come over and attack you for no good reason other than you being close to them. So skeletons are usually your first taste of that, of a creature that's ready to attack and very aggressive and will go out of its way to attack you, even though you weren't doing anything to it. And, oh, look at that, the snow's falling. It's beautiful. I love the snow in this game. Obviously, it's not the greatest graphics. It kind of just looks like little lines falling, but it's pretty cool that they added that in there, because before this game, and I've talked about my experiences with gaming in general, was basically with MUDs, which is just text-based games, for those of you who are not familiar with that term. And so you would see a box like this, and it would say, you walk into a room, and then it would sit there and describe the room like a book does, and be like, oh, there's this on this wall, and it's beautiful hanging tapestries, and, la la la. And then you would be able to type in, say, examine the tapestry. And it would interpret what you were saying and be like, okay, you examine the tapestry, and it would tell you a little bit more detail, like the tapestry is torn on the bottom right corner, missing the bottom edge. And, you may actually have a piece of cloth that kind of matches the description that they just gave you, and then you could say, try to reattach, whatever the piece of cloth that you had was, the term that they used for it, to the tapestry. And it was basically that. You had to use your imagination of what the whole room looked like, and the tapestries and stuff like that. And then this game came out, which is what your imagination was picturing for the most part, graphic-wise. It just blew everybody who played it away. It's three-dimensional rather than like a two-dimensional representation, which is basically the most advanced stuff they had out at the time. And usually those pictures were pretty basic. It was just a picture that you can kind of click on in case it wasn't like a moving picture. And then you had something like this. It was mind-blowing how far, they pushed the technology considering what other people were doing. And I think that's one of the reasons why it resonated with so many people. And then, of course, they used that interface that everybody was using with the MUDs for the real heavy detail into the game to boot. And so not only did you get beautiful graphics, at the time anyway, some of you guys may be looking at this and be like, oh, it's so blocky and stuff, but it was beautiful graphics at the time, and it was an amazing story and amazing controls. I mean, I played games that are even modern games today, and I remember, I think it was X-Play, they did, Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb, they did a skit that really just, for me, it resonated, completely, where I think it was Adam Sessler was trying to go to the bathroom, and every time he moved in the right direction to go to the bathroom, the camera angle would change on him, and he would end up leaving the bathroom. And if you can imagine, like, you really, really need to go to the bathroom, and it keeps moving on you, and eventually you would figure out how to do it. What you would have to do is move forward, and a split second later move backwards. And you would think that would be counterproductive. But what that did is because the camera angle changed, it would change your movement, and so you did need to move backwards to get out of that weird, horrible little camera angle spot of doom, which didn't allow you to move really very well at all. Is that guy a vengeful? No, he's a decaying. But that guy over there, I believe... Is he a... No, he's a decaying too. Okay, well, there's a lot of decaying guys out here. But yeah, it didn't have any of those horrible camera angles. In fact, it lets you control your own camera angle, which no other game had done yet that I'm aware of. At least none of the ones that I had played allowed you to control your camera angle, which was kind of a nuisance at first because you weren't used to it. You're like, oh, great, now I have to control my own camera angle? It doesn't do it for me? I'm kind of lazy. I've gotten used to, games kind of doing that for me in that regard, and I like it better, actually, in modern games where you can control it yourself, because it allows you to look around a little bit more. It allows you to feel like you're in control of your own story, rather than just kind of being told what to do and where to look at the moment, And it just kind of opens up the world to you a little bit more than would otherwise be, so... I definitely appreciated all the little tiny things, and I think that's the major thing. You can't really say that Everquest did one thing that made it the game that it is. It did all these little tiny things right. And I think that's what a lot of the games kind of lose sight of, is they're trying to do the one big thing, graphics. Well, we got the greatest graphics in the world at the moment, and just beautiful landscapes and stuff like that. Well, guess what? Graphics... They fade with time, You'll have beautiful graphics like this game did, and eventually, at one point or another, people will be like, it's not the greatest graphics anymore. That was 15 years ago, right? But if you want the game to last, it has to have something more. It has to have the substance, And there's so many MMOs that I've played where the chat, the community is so broken and so bogged down with just garbage that people are advertising, and bots that are just constantly spamming the window, and there's no way to send people private messages to ask them questions. You have to do it in say, and the say is so broken because you have to be within like 3 inches of the person for them to even see it, and of course they're getting spammed by like 60 other people's say, and it's just a nightmare scenario, and they never fix it because they don't really care about the community part of the game. It's graphics. We got the graphics. That's all we really need. And, I'm not trying to put down graphics at all, because I do enjoy a beautiful picture just as much as anybody does. And if I could play this game with, the graphics that are out nowadays, that would be friggin' amazing. I mean, I do like the way it looks because that's the way it used to look, and that's the way I grew up playing this game, and it brings me back to the old days. But I don't think, if it could be better graphics, that would really take away from the game. Oh, there's another vengeful. Man, there's tons of those guys out here tonight. There's usually not that many vengeful guys walking around. But maybe it's because I'm killing all the decaying skeletons, and they're getting angry that their brethren are getting killed. Let's move back. But yeah, this game did so many little things just so well that it really became... I guess you can call it a cult following, because it really is. It's just 15 years later, people were still playing it. That's pretty much a cult following, just like movies have. Let's kill this guy. He's moving pretty fast. I may just end up blasting him. Yeah, let's blast him real quick. Haha. And the fact that it has, they actually even, put in an animation for when they died. Which is just the coolest thing ever. I mean, it's still, comparing it to games that are out now, this thing still does more than most games do. And that's pretty sad, because I don't know how many people worked on this game back in the day, but I'm pretty sure from what I hear on these huge multi-million-dollar big budget games, and they say, oh, we got more people working on it than we've ever had working on, any game that we've ever made. You have that many people working on it, and yet it still comes out not anywhere near as good as this one. You're either not being very efficient with your time, which I doubt is the case, because they're paying these people. I doubt they're just going to let them sit there and do nothing, which leads me to believe that you're just not concentrating on the right issues. You're not concentrating on the right things, and you're making it again, like just graphics. You're concentrating on just one thing or two things, and you're foregoing all the small little details. And I don't know. It's just like with anything in life. Like if I was gonna build a road, yeah, you want that road to be smooth, but not at the cost of materials and longevity of that road. And so if you just concentrate on one thing when building a road, you're gonna build a pretty crappy road. You got to concentrate on a whole lot of things. You got to take a whole lot of things into account, and you got to make sure that it's a game that you're going to want to play. Because if you're designing a game, if you're a programmer out there and you don't even want to play your own game, and you're just doing it for the money, chances are you're going to allow things to kind of slip through the cracks. I don't know how many times when I was first starting off, I was doing my videos, and it's kind of weird to go back and watch one of your own videos and sit there and listen to yourself talk. But I would do it so that I could make sure that throughout the video my sound wasn't off, or when I moved my microphone around, you guys didn't constantly hear like my beard ruffle and stuff like that, which on some of my earlier videos you could, and I would fix that issue and just stop doing that. Or one of the major things that still kind of sucks is that my microphone is so sensitive that it picks up the fans in my room. And of course, living in the Houston area, it's hot. It's hot as crap here, and without the fans on, it gets really hot. And that's how I have to play the games, is without the fans on, because otherwise you'd hear this tick 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 of the ceiling fans moving and the other fans I have in my room and stuff. And so I actually have to play it like that. But it's one of those things that if you enjoy what you do, you will go back and you will make sure that it's right, and you will take out these little tiny things that may not be these huge issues. In fact, most people probably wouldn't complain. In fact, I'd never got a complaint off of any of those older videos about the noise, but it was there, and it wasn't up to the quality that I wanted it to be at. And because I enjoy doing this, and I want to produce content that other people enjoy, and a good experience, people can kind of just sit there after a hard day's work and kind of relive holy crap, guys, sorry, relive some of the old days that they, just like myself, greatly enjoyed. And I think that might be missing on some other programmers. I know some of them are very, very passionate about the games that they play and the games that they produce, and it's a lifelong dream that they finally achieved. So I'm not putting everybody into that box, but I have seen some interviews with people when they talk about the game, and they're like, oh yeah, that was a great experience, and they say it just like that, where it's like, wow, could you sound any less enthused about a game that you just spent 5 years making? And yeah, it's a long time to spend on any project, but find that thing that you're passionate about in life, whether it's gaming or sports, or you want to be a writer, you want to be a singer, whatever the case is, you should find that one thing. A lot of us don't ever get to do that. A lot of us, life happens, and you make a choice. You have kids, you have to, provide for your kids, so you pick that job that pays well, but it treats you like garbage, or it just isn't very satisfying. It's not the path you saw as a kid really wanting to go down. You want to be that fireman, that astronaut, or whatever the case is. But if you have a dream and there's something you like, try to find the time to keep it alive, because the way society is now, with all the people that are around and the internet and technology, you're able to actually have that hobby, that interest, that passion of yours, and still do something with it, even if you never get to that point of being like that movie star that you always wanted to do. There's plenty of, like I see on YouTube all the time now, there's plenty of these small little groups that get together and they produce like fan fiction for like Star Trek, and they produce like their own episodes, and they're allowed to act. They go up there on stage once a week or once a month, and they do their acting. They keep it alive. They keep that dream and that hope, and they allow themselves to express themselves in a way that means a whole lot to them, and show other people that you can still do it. And I think that's the most important thing, is to find that passion in your life, and really, well, there's really no creatures over here to kill right now, and really just try to live it. I mean, it's just so many of us don't get to live our dreams out in any sense of the word, and it really is a shame if you have that passion. Oh crap, there's another vengeful guy there. How many of these vengeful guys are gonna throw at me? There's like 3 of them over here on the left side. There's like one in the middle, and there's like one over there on the right, which is just ridiculous. I've never seen that many up. Ever. Holy crap. I don't know if we can... This definitely makes it very difficult to fight over here. I mean, we can do it, but usually you can just run around and kill anything you see and all the roamers, and these vengeful skeleton guys are usually just regular decaying skeletons, and you don't have to worry too much about what you kill. You don't have to con and kind of skirt the outskirts of the edge and make sure that you're not getting aggro. Let's come over here and kill this little pup. I don't think he's going to be an experienced. Nah, he's not experienced. But again, when you kill these guys that are no longer experienced for you, you have the chance of spawning the higher level version that does give you experience. So he may be a pup now, but his next version may not be, and then I can get experience off of that guy. So it's definitely worth it for you to kill the green ones. Otherwise, if you don't, you'll just have a whole bunch of low-level creatures running around that you can't get experience off of, and you'll be missing out on all the experience that you could possibly be getting. But again, then you have to worry about the same thing that I was just talking about with the Vengeful, where they obviously are placeholders, or the decaying skeletons are obviously placeholders for these Vengeful skeletons, and if those guys spawn, chances are you can't kill them if you're, fighting here. Why would you be here fighting these guys if you're level 35? Unless you were trying to... I don't know what you would be doing. There's really nothing to harvest from these creatures. If you wanted the fangs and the pelts, you would just go over to the zone next to us and kill over there and get a whole bunch more, a lot faster, in a greater quantity at level 35. So it's just kind of weird if you were here. But occasionally a high-level person will run through the zone to go back to bank or, whatever the case is. He's here for a reason. And he'll see, oh, those guys are blue, or oh, those guys picked on me when I was a low-level guy, and I'm going to pay them back, because I've done that before. I've gone back to low-level zones as a really high level. Even when I had, groups available, with my cleric, there's always a group available for my cleric, because they're just very sought after in the game. But I would take time and go over to Neck Forest, because Neck Forest is a zone that, as a high elf cleric, you're really never going to hunt in, but you will travel through it quite a bit on your way to Lava Storm. And the reason you're going to Lava Storm is probably Soulless B for groups. And before I knew better, I would travel that zone and get attacked quite a bit by the guards. And, if they kill you, chances are you didn't bind anywhere nearby. You usually wait till you get to right outside Soulless B and bind there, and then go into the zone. If you die inside, it's not that big of a deal. But on the journey over, you usually don't bind yourself at every zone entrance just in case you die. And because of that, if you die, it's a long run back just to get to your corpse. And you're so close to Soulless B that it's basically like running the entire thing all over again. And that happened to me a couple times at lower levels, where I would be running through that zone and the guards would kill me. And so I went back at a higher level, and I would just sit there and kill the guards. I wasn't getting any experience off of it. The guards over there drop crap for loot, so you're not making any money off of it either. But it was the principle of the thing. If you're gonna kill me, it was like I was paying them back, like they would remember it somehow because I remembered it. It's stupid to think of it like that, but when I play video games, I get into the whole lore of it. I throw myself into the role-playing aspect. I used to run around and roleplay quite a bit because I don't really see it happening too often anymore, but there were so many people back in the day that would roleplay, and especially trolls and ogres, and you'd have them running around and doing OOCs, and be like, oh, me ogre, me sit on you and squish you, stuff like that. They would always do broken English kind of talking, and it would always be like me squish you and me hurt you now, and then they would run over and try to duel you, and it was hilarious. And if you played a high elf cleric, you'd be all noble and try to act above all that and be like, oh, I forgive you for your treacherous comments and stuff like that. And it was funny because they would reply back to you, and it was like you weren't just playing a game, you were living the game for just a few moments here and there. And it was really one of those special things that didn't happen too often. Man, another vengeful over there. Let's come over here. I think that's a decaying. Yeah, we'll kill the decaying skeleton. But yeah, I don't really see too many roleplays anymore, and it's kind of a shame because that was a really funny aspect of the game. When I saw people having those conversations, and you knew they were role-playing, You know, it was very obvious that that's what they were doing. And, you know, both sides were just being stupid about it, and it was just funny. It was just so funny. And then you would have other people would join in, and they'd be like, "Don't talk to my dark elf brethren like that. We'll come and, you know, smite you or something stupid." And it was just, it was a good time. It was great. There we got a little bit of lag there. Kill this guy, a goblin diver. You know, that's one thing I don't remember seeing in any of the ice zones that I can think off at the top of my head. I'm sure there is, but a crack in the ice that you could jump in and swim around would be pretty cool. Again, swimming in this game is very, very slow. Even when you have the skill, it's pretty slow compared to running. And, of course, you always have to take into your oxygen account, unless, of course, you have... what was the name of that earring? The earring that dropped off a head. Man, what was the name of that? I just had it on the tip of my tongue. Oh, that's gonna bug me. I know the name of that because my brother and me camped Haddon for like 2 or 3 months straight, and we got in so many of those earrings for like every single one of our characters. Oh, that's gonna annoy me so much. I'm gonna have to look that up after this video is over and put it in the comment section below. Dang it, I can't believe I forgot the name of that earring. But that earring gives you enduring breath, and it allows you to not have to worry about running out of oxygen, which is really, really cool because there's a couple of zones out there that are completely underwater. And unfortunately, they're pretty far away from the beaten path, which means they didn't get used as often as I would have liked. I love these weird zones. Like, a zone underwater is just the coolest thing to me, the fact that they did that. You won't find that in any other games, really. Like EverQuest 2, I can think of maybe one zone where you have to swim underwater to get to it, but once you get to the other side, you can just pop back up and you're fighting above the water table now. And I don't know, I like the differences in when you want a challenge. Let's go to a zone underwater, or let's go to a zone that's in hot lava. And to do it, you need, resist gear, and you're going to be constantly taking damage, but it's such a small amount of damage that it's doable. That, to me, sounds like a cool zone to go into and try to fight in and get this, like, different experience. And, you know, I think games as well as movies kind of see the pattern of what makes the most money, and they're like, okay, this is what people obviously like the most, and so we'll just pack our game full of that. And we won't put any of the small, little tiny things that people only go to on occasion, but it's kind of like a diet. You can't have nothing but sugar. Obviously, people love ice cream, and they love pizza, but does that mean they want an entire game made out of pizza or an entire game made out of ice cream? No, I mean, they want those vegetables too, because it's nice to have that every once in a while. You know, you want that extra boring little spots in there so that when you don't want to have that fast-paced action all the time. Like, I watched a movie a while back. What was the name of that one? It was Brad Pitt with the zombie one, that World War Z movie. And literally from the very start of that movie, fast-paced action all the way to the end. And it was too much. Like, I like my movies to start off, build up to the climax, and then come back down. Like that old style, way of telling a story is to get me involved in the character and get me involved in the story and make me root for somebody in it. But when you start off with that much fast-paced action, I don't know who to root for. Like, why am I rooting for Brad Pitt just because you're filming him? I mean, yeah, he's a great actor. I love him pretty much every movie that he's in, but as far as like his character that he's playing, why am I rooting for that guy over the countless of millions of others getting, ransacked in the background by zombies? Maybe some of them might be more interesting. Who knows? I don't know anything about this guy, and I won't, because you won't stop the story or the action for more than 5 seconds to let me learn anything more about this guy. And it's a little bit too much. And I think video games kind of suffer from that same thing where they're like, oh, this is what people want, so I'm gonna give them really, really, fast-paced zones with tons and tons of goodies, and there's nothing to slow it down and allow people to just kind of enjoy the beauty and the story of the game that you've spent so much time and so much effort to create. That there should be, that slow movement to get people hooked into what's going on. And this game really does that. Like, this game starts you off in a town, and that's it. Like, it doesn't give you any direction on what you need to go do. And for most people, that could be a little, crazy, because they're like, okay, like for me when I first started the game, I didn't know what to do. And so to get out of the town, because I got so lost over in the Dark Elf City, I literally killed myself by attacking a guard, not knowing that would do anything, but I got so frustrated, I didn't care anymore. Like, I was just going to kill something, even if it killed me. And it ended up working for me, because it spawned me outside the town. And then I was able to actually go off and attack stuff and finally play the game and stuff. But it didn't start off with fast pace. It didn't be like, okay, you're in a little circle, surrounded by 15 mobs. Now go kill those guys. And as soon as you're done killing those guys, 15 more will spawn, and 15 more, and 15 more, all the way up to max level. No, I mean, it didn't do that. It didn't need to do that. I liked the slow pace once I got used to it. It may be slow for some people when they first start off, but if you give them time, they will get used to the slowness, and they will get used to just the steady, constant. And it is a grind that you're doing when you play this game, but not a bad one. It's one of those things where you enjoy the time as long as you spend it with people. Like, if I was doing this by myself and I wasn't making the videos, sitting here fighting by myself and just kind of killing creatures over and over and over again, that may get to me eventually. But if I had another person here I could sit here and talk with, which is the way I always played the game, in groups or with at least a few other people, the time goes by so much quicker, and you make friends with people, you sit there and talk with them. I mean, how many times at work when you were younger, when you were a teenager, did you sit there, even as an adult, did you sit there and talk with people while you're at work? And you'd be surprised about how quick the day goes by when you're doing that, versus basically sitting there. Like, I worked at a theater when I was younger, and I remember sitting behind the concession stand, sitting against the warmer that we put our popcorn in, because it was just nice and warm and cozy. And you'd be sitting there, and I would just be watching all the people walk by, because the theater I worked in was at a mall, and so you'd have people walking by all day long, and I'd be sitting there during the weekdays, after I got out of high school and stuff, before I went to college, and there would be only one person working, and the theater I was working for got so cheap at one point that they would schedule me to work box office and concession stand at the exact same time. And they're two different areas at the theater. Like, one's in the front of the theater in a box that you sit there and sell tickets to people, and the other one is the concession stand in the theater that you have to walk to and go back behind it and open up. It's two very different places that you can't be in at the exact same moment. And they would do that, so I would sell a ticket to somebody, because I'd be in box office, and then as soon as I sold the ticket to them, I would have to leave the box office, go back there and walk behind concession stand, on the off chance that they were going to buy anything, which they didn't always do. And then when they were done not buying something or buying something, I'd have to walk back into the box office. So I was there all by myself, basically just sitting there watching people walk by for 5, 6, 7 hours until my shift was over. Boring. You would be amazed at the games you play. Just you see people walking by and you'd be like, oh, let me see if I could come, because as a writer, I kind of always had an overactive imagination, so I would sit there and be like, let me see what ideas I could come up with on what their life may be like, and why they're coming to the mall, the way they're dressed and the way they're walking and the way they're acting and the people they're with and things of that sort. And that would allow my imagination to kind of run away with itself for 20-30 minutes per person, and the day would go by a little quicker. But on the days like the weekends when we had 5, 6, 7 people scheduled to work at the same time, and you were able to sit there and just talk with your friends on the slow parts of the day, it's so much better, so much faster. The day went by, so much more enjoyable. You got to learn about things that you weren't aware of, because there's always somebody who's paying attention to something that you're not. Whether they're into music, maybe they're paying attention to, oh, did you hear that new song by that new artist, or did you hear that artist did this or that? Did you see that movie? Did you, hear about this happening? They tell you a joke you never heard before. It's just people make things better for other people, and people can lose sight of that. I know I do at times. You watch the news and you're just like, oh, people are so horrible, right? Not really. I mean, yeah, you watch the news, you're going to hear the worst of the worst. That's what they do, They feed on, fear, because that gives them ratings. Like, over here, I don't know if it's the same where you guys, the people watching, live, but I live next to the Gulf of Mexico, and so anytime a hurricane is coming in, the news makes this huge deal about, oh, hurricane, go and buy every piece of food and water that you can possibly buy in the store and get prepared for it because it's going to be the end of the world, and make sure you watch the news every moment of every day so that we can bring you the new live feeds of the end of the world brought to you by this commercial. And it's gotten so ridiculous. It wasn't like that when I was a kid. When I was a kid, when there was a hurricane coming in, of course they would mention it, but it wasn't 24-hour live feed of this hurricane. And then of course they went above and beyond to make sure that they didn't cause a hysteria or a panic or anything like that, because they were held accountable for that. If they did mention, be prepared for it, even evacuation for it, and then it turned out not to be that bad, people would ridicule them and be like, you just cried wolf. Next time you do that, people may die because they're not going to listen to you anymore because you were wrong last time. And so they were very, very careful about how they portrayed things, when I was growing up. But now it seems like whether, somebody just went outside and passed gas, oh, be afraid, bad things are going to happen, evacuate the whole country. It's ridiculous how hysterical they get. But overall, I think people are good and decent, and, they do make things better by being around them. This game really personifies that. The community really makes this game what it is, because at any point in this game, you're going to get to a point where you kind of got burned out on just the constant grind, or you got burned out on a single room sitting there waiting for that piece of armor or that piece of loot that just really never wants to drop for you. When it does drop, you always lose out on the randoms, and you become discouraged, just like anybody does after a certain point. And your friends are the ones that will bring you back and be like, hey, you want to go do something else? Let's go to a zone that neither one of us have ever been to before. You can do that with complete strangers, but friends will definitely make it a lot more enjoyable, because you can count on them. They're not just going to poof on you when you finally get there and you run into trouble. A lot of people will do that in pickup groups, or pugs for short. You join a group, you go to a zone, and things start going badly, and people will just go link dead. And if your friend goes link dead, you know that something happened. He lost power, he lost his internet, whatever the case is. He didn't do it on purpose, and he didn't do it because you guys were having a hard time. It just happened. It was one of those horrible timing issues, and you can wait for him, and if he doesn't come back, well, then you can either log on to one of your other characters and wait for him to come back, or group with him another day. But he didn't do it on purpose, is the whole point, and it's really cool to have people like that to experience the game with. And I think game companies are finally realizing that. A lot more games are becoming multiplayer games, but they haven't quite realized it to the fullest extent of why people like multiplayer games. A lot of them are very aggressive PvP style multiplayer games, which is good for a lot of people, but not for the majority. If you look at P99 Blue and you look at P99 Red, P99 Blue has hands down far more people than Red does. And why is that? Well, because most people like to work together rather than against each other. Not putting down PvP at all, because it does have its place, and when I play like Halo and stuff like that, you're playing multiplayer, you're just destroying the other guy. It is highly enjoyable, but for a game like this that really encourages cooperation, I think it's perfect for Blue. And the PvP Red, I wish there was a way we could integrate it into the game in such a way that the Red would still be happy with the PvP style. And I know they talked about adding new content into this game at some point in the future. Zones that they've designed themselves that have the same feel of old school Everquest. I wouldn't mind seeing like an entire continent devoted just to Red, so that the Blue can still hunt there. They can integrate into the Red community, but it would promote people to go there even if they weren't PvP, because it's new content. And therefore Red would have a huge amount more blood kind of being put into the game that they enjoy very much, the PvP aspect of it, and yet still retain the Blue aspect to it, because again, it's new content. Like, you don't have to go there. if you don't want to. You can still level up to max level. You can still get the best armor in the game by not going to those new zones. But if you want to experience the new content, you know, maybe make it that way, because I think that might be a cool idea to force people to experience. I think a lot of people might be intimidated by the whole factor, because if you're brand new to PvP and you jump on the red server, you're gonna get so destroyed if you don't have somebody there to help you out and kind of teach you the rules of the do's and don'ts and things of that sort. Like in this server, you can sit at the zone line and you know, wait for a group. I've heard over there nobody sits at the zone line because it's like a trap. They're waiting for people to zone in, and yeah, you can zone out, and what they'll do is have somebody on the other side and somebody on this side, and you'll go from one zone to the other just getting beaten up until one of them gets the kill. And something like, you don't have to worry about that on this server. And so it's a whole new different experience that until you learn those really hard lessons, you're just going to get annihilated over and over and over again. But if you did that with the new zones, it would allow new players to kind of experience that in somewhat of a safe environment. And if they happen to have like a really bad day where they just get annihilated over and over again, they just leave those zones and come back to the old, you know, security blanket of the old zones that they're very familiar with. I don't know if people who play red would really like that, because again, they'd be giving up a lot of zones just to blue, because all the old zones would be blue and just the new ones would be red. But I don't know, I think it would be a good way to integrate it, at least to start with. Maybe somewhere down the road, if you could, if people actually ended up enjoying that aspect, maybe integrate it a little bit more. I don't have the answer to it really, because nobody's really done it to the effectiveness where both sides are happy. You know, like both sides usually want more, and you need to find that middle ground where both sides are unhappy. Basically, that's the definition of a compromise, where neither side gets what they want, but both sides get what they need, and nobody's gone there yet. And maybe one day somebody will be watching this video and be like, oh, this game did it, and everybody's happy now, and they figured out the perfect scenario for that. Until they do, we're still just, you know, left trying to figure out the fork and trying to figure out, you know, something that you guys are taking for granted right now, or maybe not taking for granted, but at very least enjoying greatly, I hope. So, again, we're probably going to end the episode here, guys. I want to thank you all for watching. If you enjoy these videos, please hit that like button, subscribe. Definitely helps grow my channel, and I greatly appreciate it. Also, I want to hear your comments, any stories of when you first started the game. My guy is so ugly. This guy is hideous looking. Yeah, that's pretty hideous. I'm not going to leave you guys looking at that. We'll come over here and look at nice little beautiful igloos right there. But yeah, I want to hear your stories of when you first started the game. Any, you know, big defining moments in the game. I love hearing that kind of stuff and sharing it with the rest of the viewers. Again, guys, thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.